Tonight in downtown Toronto, once more with feeling. History within reach, not even a downpour can dampen spirits.
We're gonna win tonight.
Take a deep breath, Raptors fans. Tonight could be it.
I'll try not to get emotional.
Sarah Sanders reveals she's leaving the White House. Could a run for governor be next?
Are the Liberals planning a painful 25-cent a litre tax on gas?
You're misleading Canadians.
How much will it cost to reach our Paris targets? The independent assessment and at issue is standing by. This is The National.
Here we go again. This is a live look at Jurassic Park in downtown Toronto, where fans are more than ready for the Raptors to knock out the Warriors and please make some history. Now, Game 6 is in Oakland tonight, but for Raps fans here, just steps behind me in Jurassic Park and all across the country, it doesn't really matter where they play as long as they win. And there is a lot of faith that they will. Nothing can bring down their spirits, not Monday's loss, not even the weather.
Raps in 6! Raps in 6!
It has been a damp and pretty gloomy day in Toronto, but looking at the fans, you would never know that.
Lowry for the win!
Any lingering disappointment that the Raps did not put this series to bed on Monday, well, that's long forgotten.
Raps in 6!
Tonight, everyone is focused on the win. And while thousands of Raps fans are once again jamming up downtown Toronto, they will be watching Oakland's Oracle Arena. The mood there a bit more tense than celebratory. Yes, Golden State comes into Game 6 with a win. Still tonight, for them, it is do or die.
I think the main thing is to just lock in on the game, focus on what we have to get done.
And Kevin Durant down.
And even without superstar Kevin Durant in the lineup, expect the Warriors to just live up to their name. For their part, the Raptors will be hungry to end this series tonight and head home with their first ever NBA title. That is something fans watching here and all across Canada are more than ready to see. So tonight we'll be covering all the Game 6 excitement, obviously from here in Toronto and across Canada. David Common is just across the way from me in that mess over there in Jurassic Park, which we weren't even sure was going to open with all the rain today. And lucky Greg Ross is back at the Oracle Arena in Oakland. So why don't we start there with Greg? It's all on the line for the Warriors tonight, Greg, but for them, I guess it's more than just a game, right?
It absolutely is. There is so much drama going into this Game 6 tonight. Not only are the Warriors facing elimination for the second straight game with their backs up against the wall, not only are the Raptors taking a second crack at closing out this series, but this will, without a doubt, be the final game the Warriors play in this building, Oracle Arena, because after this season, they're moving across the bay to San Francisco to a brand spanking new arena that is almost completely built, and I'm told that it is beautiful. But this arena here has so many memories, and the people of Oakland are so proud of this team and so proud of this building, and there's a lot of emotion going to be in the building. I was talking with some of the ushers and some of the people that work behind the scenes here at Oracle Arena, and they, one woman, her eyes just filling with tears as she explained to me how sad this is for her to be working this last Warriors game here, not sure if she'll be going across the bay to work at the brand new arena. So that's where people here stand. As for the Raptors, when it comes to drama, let's face it, they have a chance once again to win their first ever NBA championship in franchise history, and they do not want to go back to Toronto for Game 7 of this series.
Okay, so Greg, you mentioned the Raptors. I know you see them every time you're down there. Can you give us a sense how many are out there tonight?
You know, there were so many fans here after Game 4 that were just staying around, sticking around and chanting and cheering, and it seemed like there was over 1,000. We have seen quite a few Raptor fans. I was just in the building. One man telling me that he flew in this morning on a plane that was literally filled with Raptor fans. They were chanting and cheering on that plane. He was told that another flight had just arrived before them, also filled with Raptor fans. And if you go inside the building, it's a sea of yellow right now with those yellow t-shirts that the fans are wearing. But you see the red. There are plenty of fans as you look throughout the building, that have their Raptors red or their Raptors black on, and they are going to be cheering loudly, and they're hoping to be heard on the broadcast tonight. And we'll see if they can match up what we saw in Game 4 here with just what seemed like thousands of people.
All right, Greg, thanks very much. Don't get a sunburn out there. We'll talk to you again soon. So you saw how relatively calm it was outside the Warriors. Let's move over to talk to somebody where it's not calm. Let's talk to David at Jurassic Park because, you know, this is how we roll. So, David, obviously a lot of excitement there now. It looked pretty iffy for a while today. How happy do you think people are that the park is finally open after all the bad weather?
Yeah, happy would be the beginning word that I would use. Calm is a word that I would not use at all. Lots of excitement, lots of energy once again here at Jurassic Park. But as you know, look, we had pounding rain through a lot of today. There was flooding just in the streets in behind me. And now the mayor of the city standing right there watching with a couple of thousand fans as tip-off is really just moments away. There was talk they were going to open the arena in front of us here because, of course, nothing's happening inside the arena tonight. But no, they didn't end up opening the arena. The skies have cleared. The weather is not bad. It's actually nice to be out here. Having said that, on the walk down here, lots of people in the bars, lots of people in covered areas. This city, once again, tons of people watching. And of course, it's not just in this city, right across the country, the tune-in has started.
And so, David, give us a sense. I've heard lots of people today say they can't handle a Game 7. They're too tense. Do people think this is finally the night?
Yeah, I can't even say Game 7. I've got to do it quietly because people will pounce on me if I say that. There is not a desire for that. There's not quite the same level of certainty as we saw in the last game. Of course, losing by just 1 point. There's lots of talk here. Well, the ref had a bad call. Oh, that timeout shouldn't have happened when it did. Oh, we were denied this and that and all sorts of other things. But you know what? We are now moving on to this game. Lots of focus on that. Lots of energy once again here in the park. You know, I think really the key is they want to see a win tonight. And if they do see a win, lots of people will pour out on these streets, people who are inside right now. And there is a very large, once again, police presence, a big one that you see on the streets around us.
All right, David, thanks very much. Pace yourself, my friend. We will check in with you soon. This incredible playoff run has become a national event. There are Jurassic Parks all across the country. So here's a live look at some of them tonight. We will go there later on the National. For now, though, let's head on back inside where it's nice and quiet. Rosie, you've got the day's other stories.
I'm sure David said important things there, but I have no idea what they were. Okay, Adrian, let's move on. That diplomatic row between Ottawa and Beijing continues to spiral. You might remember last night we told you Justin Trudeau was snubbed after he tried to arrange a conversation with China's leadership. Tonight, Katie Simpson has Beijing's blunt message for Canada.
China is taking its boldest stance yet, warning it will continue to freeze out Ottawa until it gets what it wants. After CBC News reported China's premier rejected a call from the Prime Minister, a foreign ministry spokesman was asked why. He suggests the only way to open up a dialogue is to release Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. We hope that Canada will take seriously our severe concerns and immediately release Ms. Meng Wanzhou and actively take substantial measures to push China-Canada relations back on track, he said.
It would be a very dangerous precedent indeed for Canada to alter its behavior when it comes to honoring an extradition treaty in response to external pressure.
The Foreign Affairs Minister rejected the idea that is getting some high-profile support. The Globe and Mail reports Jean Chrétien is advocating for Meng's release to appease Beijing. His thoughts matter since the former Prime Minister may soon be tapped to act as Canada's special envoy to China. Since Meng's arrest at the request of the U.S., China has retaliated by detaining 2 Canadians, sentencing a third to death, and by halting purchases of most Canadian canola.
It's unfortunate that we are having this public debate because it will comfort them in their view that if they apply enough pressure on the Canadian government, that at some point we'll just cry uncle.
But Canada is not ready to fold. Ottawa announced $150 million in new insurance support to help canola farmers stuck in the middle of this dispute, a sign Canada sees tensions dragging on.
As for Jean Chrétien, the question now is whether he'll still be considered for the special envoy role if he doesn't share the government's public position on China. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
The parliamentary budget watchdog is looking to clear the air on carbon pricing and what it will take for Canada to meet its commitments to reduce greenhouse gases. It's central to the Trudeau government's environmental policy, but also, as you may know, politically divisive. As Salima Shivji tells us, today's report hasn't helped.
Mere months before the election, a number-crunching report that lands right in the middle of a hyper-partisan political debate.
Conservatives will keep fighting this carbon tax and the cover-up.
Another ally to fight this job-killing carbon tax.
Just as the chorus of Conservative messaging against the Liberals' carbon tax gets even louder, with Alberta now added to the list of provinces that will fall under the federal tax. A contentious topic the Parliamentary Budget Office chose to wade into.
There was a gap in government policy between 2022 and 2030, and we decided that it was necessary to fill that gap by providing unbiased information.
The report assumes a world in which the carbon tax is applied more broadly across industries. It says if Canada is to meet its Paris targets to reduce emissions, the government's carbon tax will have to go up a lot, hitting more than $100 a ton by 2030. The budget watchdog says that would mean a 23 cents a litre hike at the pumps, a number the Conservatives were pleased to highlight. They even rounded up.
I'm asking a simple yes or no question. Are the Liberals planning a painful 25 cent a litre tax on gas?
You're misleading Canadians.
For the Environment Minister, the report isn't relevant, since it only looks at how hefty the carbon tax must be in the fight to honor Paris.
Parliamentary Budget Office report does not take into account new measures that we're already implementing, from what we just announced this week, tackling plastic pollution, to doubling of nature.
She also nixed the idea of the tax climbing higher.
The plan is not to increase the price post-2022.
The Conservatives may see fodder in this report to attack the Liberals, but next week it's their turn to reveal what measures they would use to fight climate change instead of a carbon tax. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
We want to give you a preview of a new series that you will see soon here on the National and across CBC News starting next week. We'll be looking at how climate change is affecting you, Canadians, right now. Extreme heat, wildfire smoke, and diseases, all made worse by a warming planet. The impact on your health and the challenges faced by doctors.
When I went to medical school, we were taught that there was no Lyme disease in Canada.
And we'll take you to the Arctic, where thawing permafrost is changing the landscape.
I'm just worried about my house might fall apart.
And the search for solutions.
Making changes in our lifestyle, making changes in our traffic patterns, in our buildings.
CBC News digs into climate change in our backyard, online, on radio, and right here on the National. It all starts Monday.
Some of the other stories we are following tonight. The man accused of killing 51 people at 2 mosques in Christchurch has pleaded not guilty to all charges. It has been 3 months since a gunman opened fire on worshippers in New Zealand. Brenton Tarrant, an Australian citizen, is facing 51 counts of murder, 40 counts of attempted murder, and 1 charge of terrorism. His trial starts in May of next year.
The Islamic Republic of Iran is responsible for the attacks that occurred in the Gulf of Oman.
The U.S. Secretary of State blaming Iran for explosions on 2 oil tankers this morning. The exact cause is still under investigation, but Mike Pompeo said American intelligence agencies are drawing a connection to Iran because of the weaponry used. Iran has called that claim unfounded. And a U.S. federal agency says Kellyanne Conway should be fired from the White House. That's coming from the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, a government watchdog agency that, by the way, is not related to Robert Mueller. Conway, of course, is a senior advisor to the president and officially is not supposed to engage in certain political activities, but the agency says she repeatedly broke the law by making disparaging comments about Democratic presidential candidates. Now, Donald Trump's White House team is about to get smaller, and the person leaving, one of his fiercest defenders. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders will step down by the end of the month after nearly 2 tumultuous years in the role. But why and what might be next? Here's Allison Northcott.
This has been the honor of a lifetime.
In an administration known for its high turnover, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was somewhat of a lasting figure. As press secretary, she always loyally defended the president, becoming one of his closest advisors.
She's done an incredible job, but we've been through a lot together, and she's tough.
That toughness sometimes meant combat with journalists.
That's one of the reasons I'm standing here taking your questions, and a lot of times taking your questions in a tone that's completely unnecessary, unneeded, and frankly doesn't help further the conversation or help the American people get any more information in a better way, which is your job and my job, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to move on.
Sanders became a familiar face in the media and the brunt of some jokes.
I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies. It's probably lies.
There were times her statements weren't true. After Donald Trump fired FBI Director James Comey, Sanders said rank-and-file members had lost confidence in their director.
I've heard from countless members of the FBI that are grateful and thankful for the president's decision.
But in Robert Mueller's report, Sanders told investigators her statement was a slip of the tongue, spoken in the heat of the moment, founded on nothing. In recent months, her press briefings have been rare.
The last one was more than 3 months ago here. It was less than 15 minutes. So I think the fact that maybe she wasn't on camera quite as much, wasn't forced to be accounting for the things that were happening in the Trump White House, allowed her to stay in that job a little bit longer.
As she leaves the White House, Sanders says she'll spend more time with her 3 children back home in Arkansas, where Trump said he hopes she one day runs for governor, leaving many to wonder who will replace her here. Allison Northcott, CBC News, Washington.
And still ahead on The National, more news from Washington after Donald Trump says, sure, he'd take dirt on his political opponents from foreign governments.
And the other biggest thing on TV tonight, at issue is here. Andrew Chantal and CBC poll analyst Eric Grenier join me. Some of you love this. Right after this.
And we'll be back here from here in Jurassic Park. Just look at those faces glued to every moment of the game. We should say right now, the Raptors are winning.
The top 10 list in alphabetical order: beavers, that broad-tailed rodent; bobcats, known for keen sight; dragons, the mythical winged monster; grizzlies, the brown bear common to parts of Canada; hogs, Toronto was once affectionately known as Hogtown; raptors, short form for a family of dinosaurs; velociraptor, if you're familiar with Jurassic Park; scorpions, those with the stinging tail; T-Rex, known as the king of the dinosaurs; tarantulas, large hairy tropical spiders; and terriers for dog lovers. The animal theme prevalent for a reason.
Mascots are a very important part of the whole thing, and the animal images in terms of T-shirts and hats have by far sold the most, with the Sharks, the Hornets, and the Bulls kind of being the leaders.
Are you worried about something that is trendy now, may not be later?
I think that, to a large degree, you have to go with what the people want.
Considering the time factor involved, you'd think the team already has its name, but John Bitove denies that.
We're continuing to work with focus groups and NBA properties and everything else, and all 10 of these names are in the creative services department, where we're trying to figure out different logos and what and how each can be applied.
The look is as unique as the aim is simple. At home or away, the Raptors uniforms are designed for young fans who will grow up with the NBA expansion team.
It'll be a fresh look, a very exciting look. We want to be right on the cutting edge. We want to be classy, but yet we want some style to what we're doing.
I like it all. Well, I like the jersey because it has the raptor on it.
Here we've got the purple sweatshirt with the embroidered logo on it.
And that's exactly what the Raptors are banking on. Already 7th in NBA merchandise sales, those numbers are expected to jump in May when the uniforms hit the stores. More than a marketing tool, Isaiah Thomas says the look will help set the tone for the team.
We want people who will have a certain amount of character and toughness about them, but most important of all, we want to put together a group of individuals whose chemistry will be conducive to a winning atmosphere.
The Raptors opened the 1995 exhibition schedule on the road in Halifax, but if Isaiah gets his way, fans in Toronto will be rewarded for their patience, for when it really counts.
Maybe we can convince the league into making sure that we have our home opener here at home as opposed to being on the road. But as long as the country of Canada gets to see the product that we're putting out, I'm happy with that.
There's likely just 1 week left before the House of Commons breaks for summer. And that means the Liberal government is pushing hard to get dozens of bills past the finish line. Two of them in particular are facing a lot of criticism. Bill C-69 is a massive overhaul on how resource projects like pipelines are approved in this country. And Bill C-48 is the oil tanker ban off BC's northern coast.
69 is a full frontal assault on the resource industries that have been really central to Canada's prosperity.
And just this week, 6 premiers wrote a letter to the Prime Minister saying those bills will have detrimental effects on national unity.
My message to Ottawa is please take that seriously.
I think it's absolutely irresponsible for Conservative premiers to be threatening our national unity if they don't get their way.
All right, so is Trudeau in a showdown with at least 6 of Canada's premiers? There is a decision on the Trans Mountain extension that is expected next week too. Would that be enough to get some of them back on side? Chantal Hébert is in Montreal tonight. Andrew Coyne is in Toronto. And CBC poll analyst Eric Grenier here in Ottawa with me. Good to see everybody. So let's start with this whole brouhaha with the premiers. Worth pointing out, as the Prime Minister did, that they are all Conservative premiers. Nevertheless, it is interesting the tack they've taken attacking this bit of federal legislation that it has now been sent back to the Senate with some other amendments. Chantal, how serious is this? Is the claim that this is somehow an issue of national unity valid?
Well, it is if you go to the core of the debate, but those 2 bills reflect Liberal campaign promises, and they do enjoy support beyond Liberal ranks. All these premiers are Conservative. There is a fair amount of pre-election rhetoric and the narrative that both sides are using. And if the test of Prime Minister ensuring national unity was to be on the good side of premiers, I guess all our recent Prime Ministers but one, Brian Mulroney, would have been failures. And Brian Mulroney, who did get the premiers on side on a host of things, did not end up being a Prime Minister who fostered a lot of national unity. So I don't think that's the test of those bills or that debate, that the tone is set in the way that it is set.
And I should say, Andrew, that the government did put some amendments into Bill C-69, not the 180 plus that the Senate sent back, but they did try and address some of the concerns around how much power the provinces would have, who would be able to testify at these kinds of hearings. So I don't know, maybe the concerns are still this valid, or maybe they're not.
Well, they took on board the amendments moved by the quote-unquote independent senators, and they were less disposed to the ones moved by Conservative senators. This reminds me of the fight that you always see between the federal parties over who's being more divisive. No, you're being divisive. No, you're being divisive. And in this case, it's you're threatening national unity. No, you're threatening national unity. I tend to side with the Prime Minister on this one. The premiers say, "Oh, we're not actually threatening national unity. We're just saying you might be causing difficulties." If you were genuinely concerned about the national unity implications of a policy, you take people aside in private. When people make these public statements, it's usually for performative reasons. The country is not going to split up over an energy regulatory bill. It has lots of reasons why people of good faith might be opposed to it. There's lots of reasons to think it's not well drafted. There's lots of reasons to worry that it's going to have particular implications in one region or another. That's particularly a worry, I suppose, if you're a Liberal, that you're not going to get elected in these regions. They're not going to take it very kindly. But to talk about, in even general terms, about this being a threat to the unity of the country, that is a little bit like saying, nice country you have there, pity something if something should happen to it. It is bringing that issue into it. It is a veiled threat, and I think the Prime Minister was right to call them on it.
Yeah, I mean, when that happened, Eric, I have to say, watching from my cubicle, I thought to myself, that's sort of not something the Prime Minister is going to mind, right? Having 6 Conservative premiers up smacking him around as so he can smack back. Like, to me, it just seems like that's not a terrible thing politically for the Prime Minister.
No, I think the campaign plan is, particularly in Ontario, to campaign against Doug Ford rather than Andrew Scheer. We know that Conservatives are concerned about the unpopularity of the Ontario Premier, and he is perhaps someone who's a bit easier to caricature as a villain for Justin Trudeau than Andrew Scheer. So going up against someone like Doug Ford, someone like Jason Kenney, who is also not that popular outside of Alberta, and is a bit of a throwback and makes it a bit easier to say that this is just Stephen Harper's party with a new leader, I don't think he minds that at all.
You know, if we're worried about national unity, one nice feature here is to see the premiers of Ontario and Alberta on the same side of this issue. You know, you go back to the early 1980s where there was that previous energy brawl, and that really was much more a regionally divided situation. But we've got to stop turning every policy disagreement into a regional or you know, unity fight. That is toxic politics, and it doesn't help matters at all.
I wonder though, if we're expecting the Trans Mountain pipeline decision, I think it's on Tuesday, I would put a lot of money on the idea that it's going to be green-lit, given that the government and all of us own it. How will that, though, play into this conversation about national unity and regional strife, Chantal?
I don't think that the province, in this case BC, that is opposed to the Trans Mountain expansion is inclined to put it in terms of unity. It hasn't so far. And when you look at that upcoming decision and the sense widespread that the federal government is going to relaunch the project, you understand why the Liberals are happy to have a fight over regulatory overseeing of pipelines or about the tanker ban in the lead up to that, because they're basically shoring up their credentials on the other side of the equation by saying, well, you know, we're not all in on just pipelines, we're also in on climate change, and they're not. And I think their audience is actually not the premiers, that they have no hope to get on site because they will still oppose carbon pricing no matter what happens to these bills. But the real audience is voters.
And Eric, if the pipeline gets the green light next week, as we will presume that it does, at a time when the government's also trying to shore up its environmental credibility, I wonder how a green light for the pipeline then affects voters, progressive voters, who are thinking, well, I don't know where to park my vote now because these things, to me, seem hypocritical. I'm speaking as a progressive voter, not myself here.
Right, yeah, there is a bit of a balancing act that the Prime Minister will have to play on this, and I think that the two factors they're weighing in the equation is that there will be those progressive voters who will not be very impressed that the government is owning a pipeline, and there will also be those voters who don't really care that much about the pipeline itself, but will take it as a signal that the fact that it is going to get built, if that's the case, it will give some confidence to people who are looking for investment in the economy, that the Liberals are not preventing growth in Canada. And the Liberals might be making the calculation that while it will turn off a good deal of progressive voters, there might be more people in the centre who just want to know that the government is not messing things up and making it difficult for businesses to thrive in the country.
So does it become an election issue, Andrew, any of this? I mean, the balancing of the environment and the economy as the Liberals like to talk about it?
It's a battle for the center ground on this issue that is shaping up between these two parties now. The Liberals have owned the center ground until now, but it's shaky territory and they've been under a lot of pressure. We're going to have Andrew Scheer unveiling his environmental plan in the next few days, maybe next week. Yeah. We had a concession from the Environment Minister today that they are not going to raise the carbon tax to $100, which is where the Parliamentary Budget Officer has calculated you need to get to your Paris targets. So you've got both parties probably tacitly or otherwise conceding they're not going to hit their Paris targets. You've got both of them who will have some kind of environmental plan. We can argue about which one is the better environmental plan. But I think the days in which the Liberals could say we're the only party that have some kind of middle ground here is about to be over. The Conservatives are going to try and contest this now.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends what they have to say.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously.
My point is politically, they're going to have a plan.
Yes,
You and I
that's
can
right.
pick
We
it
can't
apart,
say it
but
anymore.
it will be
yes.
a plan.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
Chantal,
but I think in the case of the Conservatives, it will also matter that they get people who are not Conservative premiers or Conservatives to validate their plan to public opinion. Because at this point, the perception is that their plan, whatever it is going to be smokes and mirror. So they will need outside independent backers to say this is a good plan.
That's right.
Also, at the end of the day, the carbon tax will never be saleable by the Liberals in places like Alberta and Saskatchewan. But I'm not sure a pro-pipeline Conservative Party, regardless of its plan, will be a big sell in BC and Quebec. So,
and Eric, just from a polling perspective, is this an issue that people are seizing on, are thinking about in a way, like around an election? Would it be some sort of deciding factor? I guess it would depend on how old you are and where you are and all those kinds of things.
Well, climate change is certainly emerging as a top issue once again. It was back when the Liberals came forward with Stéphane Dion's green shift. It just, the financial crisis in 2008 toppled the environment as one of the top issues, but it's starting to become one of the top issues once again, and particularly among three key demographics for the Liberals, so Quebecers, young people, and women. So for the Conservatives, I think they might be looking at what happened in the Ontario election in 2018. Under Patrick Brown, the PCs had a carbon pricing plan that they were going to go to the electorate with. It seemed popular at the time. Doug Ford came in, he got rid of that plan, had something that looked a bit like what we're probably going to see from Andrew Scheer, that is emphasizing things like cleaner water and cleaner air, not necessarily fighting climate change, but something that maybe seems more tangible to voters. And it didn't seem to hurt Doug Ford either. So I think it all matters of what kind of environment we're talking about politically. If voters are looking for a change in the fall, whether Andrew Scheer has a very robust climate change plan or not might not be as important. But I'm not sure if we're in the same kind of environment that Doug Ford could coast on without having an environment plan last year in last year's election.
Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. We'll talk again soon. Before we go, though, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. We got extra content there. This week we're going to talk about National Pharmacare. Will it actually ever happen? Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
Next on The National, it is back to Jurassic Park in downtown Toronto. With all the stress of a high-stakes game, ever wonder what being a fan means for your health?
Is this the dagger?
It's no different, like in terms of how our brain feels, as when a biological need is satisfied.
Christine Birak finds out next, but first. Take a look at this live shot of the crowd behind me. Their favorite chant, "We the North." But these fans might have a bigger claim to that title. Take a look at how Raptors fever is taking hold north of 60.
We the North, cheering from the real North here in Whitehorse. We have 2 basketball nets on either end of our cul-de-sac, which we often play kids versus adults outside. And just knowing that they like basketball, knowing that a couple of them are Raptors fans, they would start to come in and knock on our door if there was a game on, because they knew we'd be watching it. And they just kind of trickled in, and the last game, I finally met some of these kids' parents.
We the North, the real North, from Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. Well, let's just say snacks we have when we watch the game are a little bit different. We have caribou stew and bannock. I don't know if you can see my granddaughter Rosa. I'm packing her. She's catching her nap so she can stay up late tonight and watch. The best thing is to watch as our elders in the community are getting on board with this. So on Facebook, one of our elders, Julia, posted, "Learning basketball, it's making me sweat."
This is me. And this is me shopping. Oh, I know, it doesn't look like I'm shopping in the same way that, say, this does. This is shopping on the internet. If you don't believe the online experience can possibly approach the real thing, well then, you haven't visited the Internet Mall of America. They've actually created this site so that it's actually like a mall. There are floors, escalators, and look down here. This is just like every women's washroom I've ever been in. You wait forever. I've now joined the increasing numbers of internet shoppers, gift givers like Catherine Gage, who selects, ships, and delivers the chosen items, all without ever leaving her desk.
The selection is all there. For the most part, you can see things the same as you would in a store, except you don't have to put up with crowds and people pushing and shoving.
Who else shops this way? Recent studies suggest that of the 50 million computer users, about 4 million, roughly 1 in 12, will take time to shop around. Catherine Gage isn't typical. Most online shoppers are men, specifically men between the ages of 25 and 55. That may have something to do with the results of a recent British study suggesting men don't cope very well when shopping in the real world.
And in many cases, women, when shopping, didn't even register any stress at all, whereas men had heart rate increases and blood pressure increases and everything else. Clearly, the shopping experience out in the malls is a stressful experience for men.
There we go. Graham Bennett, who heads up a leading computer publication, points out as interesting as how they shop is when.
Recent statistics said that over 50% of online shopping is done after 9 p.m. in the evening.
In other words, after the real mall is closed. I can explore the shops of the online mall 24 hours a day. I can check out the Vatican gift store in Rome, or I can step into the virtual dressing room at Eddie Bauer.
Maybe you don't like the tucked in look, you can have it hanging out if you want.
Over at the real Eddie Bauer, where they've been offering shopping by catalog for years, they view their online store as a kind of electronic catalog.
To be able to build your outfit, to see what it looks like, to see what the coordination is, and then to virtually call us toll-free and have us ship it to them.
Eddie Bauer reports its online business is doing better than the company expected, but doesn't expect to abandon its real stores.
They really like to come in here and touch and feel.
I have no idea what I want or if I'll like something until I actually see it or try it on or smell it, or depending on what it is.
Companies are trying to bridge the technology gap. At Land's End, you can build a model based on your own personal body type.
Cindy Crawford.
And the technology is getting closer to giving consumers a better look at what it is they're buying.
Take a look at the dashboard close up if you wish. And it's a very interesting capability that at this point could be applied to virtually any product that you wanted to get a sense of what does it look like from this side and that side. Highly approachable for fashion and jewelry and a lot of other things where the devil is in the details.
Speaking of jewelry, back in the Internet Mall of America,
You know, this is the equivalent of shopping hell.
Lowry a three, got it, big bucket.
Kyle Lowry, as usual, making his presence known. The game is still in the very early stages, but the Toronto Raptors are clearly working hard to wrap this up. And just look who just arrived to Jurassic Park. It's Drake, who's repping the home team from his VIP spot on stage just down the street from me here. Wouldn't be a Raptors game without their biggest fan. So despite the lousy weather, the city is packed with fans, bars and restaurants totally jammed, but our Joanna Remiliotis managed to squeeze into a place near Toronto's Yonge and Dundas Square. So Joanna, with all this excitement and so many people, keeping everyone safe has to be a massive job. I know you've been keeping an eye on the police presence during this series. How is the security situation?
Letting his team know.
Well, right now is focused where you are, Adrian, to keep, the peace right there at Jurassic Park. But the expectation is once crowds like these let out at Yonge and Dundas Square, that's when security will ramp up. Yonge and Dundas Square, for viewers who aren't familiar with Toronto, is at the heart of the city, and it's a traditional gathering place. When the Blue Jays won the World Series in '92 and '93, 500,000 people congregated here, and the expectation is up to 1 million might congregate here tonight or Sunday, depending on the wind. If it's a wind, that's when the crowds go up. But it's a traditional place to hang out, and that's why a lot of the bars around here are jam-packed and people, and I'll take a quick scan of the room here. They've been planted in their seats for nearly 5 hours to make sure that they had a spot. So it's so much about, everybody that I spoke to said, about sharing the moment and sharing the experience.
Okay, so I know it's super hard to hear you. It's only going to get louder as the night goes on. I warn everyone. But I understand you have a special guest with you?
Yes, we have a special fan that we did find in the crowd. Somehow we spotted him. Let me take you to him right now. Here he is. Justin, there's a man under this suit, and he bought this suit on Amazon overnight. And here you are, he just showed up. Like, he doesn't work for the bar, he's just a regular guy who showed up. So Justin, tell me what motivated you to come out here, to buy this, and to come here tonight?
I feel like in today's society, everyone's asking a why to do something. I feel like everyone starts to ask why not. And I feel like a lot of my inspiration has come from Navahita and his acts of kindness and his greatness. And he's never asked why, he just does. And I feel like enough people, if you help achieve their dreams and goals in this world, the universe will give you the same. And the picture is larger than life, just like Raptors Nation and me. So we the North, let's win tonight.
You're here just to make people happy.
Just make me happy. Be a big part of the picture and be larger than life. I'm only 5 feet. I'm only 5 foot tall in here, so I need a 7-foot dinosaur to make me bigger.
You're invading my space. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Justin. Okay, Adrian, I'll throw it back to you because I can barely hear anything in this place, including you.
Make sure you have Downy and stop.
Thanks, Joanna. Not only is it hard to hear, I have so many questions about that guy, including is there some sort of ventilation in there? We'll get back to Joanna in a bit. When eyes are not on the court, they will, of course, be on the sidelines watching a very important man, and that's Nick Nurse. The Raps rookie coach has been a standout this season, but he was criticized after Game 5 for a pretty controversial decision.
This crowd has been waiting for this explosion. Kawhi Leonard.
Late in the fourth quarter, the Raps took a pair of timeouts to give the guys a rest, but some say that really hurt momentum.
We had back-to-back ones there that we would have lost under the 3-minute mark and just thought we could use the extra energy push.
Lowry for the win!
Okay, but we know how that worked out, a 1-point loss. Now, Nurse doesn't seem to be dwelling on it, though, saying he is thrilled to be coaching another finals game. After all, as Steven D'Souza shows us, he worked long and hard to get here.
It should be no surprise that Raptors fever has hit rural Iowa. After all, they've been following hometown hero Nick Nurse for more than 30 years. Growing up in Carroll, Iowa, the Raptors head coach was the youngest of 9 kids, and friends could see his athletic ability right away.
He was a quarterback on the football team, pitcher and shortstop on the baseball team, and heck, he could even pole vault.
The 1985 high school state championship would be the first of many titles to come.
Feels pretty good. It was 27 years, I think, in coaching.
When Nurse was promoted last year, he had big shoes to fill. After 5 years as a Raptors assistant, he replaced the just-named NBA Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey. Now, to call the path Nick Nurse took to get to the NBA unconventional would be an understatement. He followed a route that looks part European backpacking adventure, part Middle America road trip. 5 countries, 15 different teams. The only NBA head coach to have led teams in U.S. college, overseas pro leagues, and the NBA Developmental League.
We got to be stronger, get it in the basket, and get good shots.
He, in that familiar drawl, spent more than a decade overseas, where he honed his try-anything, risk-taking style.
That's one thing I took from him as a player when he was a coach, is that he believed in his craft, and he take risks, and ain't nothing wrong with that at all. Because when it's successful, everybody likes it.
But he's not always successful. Take those 2 late timeout calls in Game 5 that some argue killed the Raptors' momentum when they were just minutes away from winning it all.
I've been in games with him like that before, and it worked out.
Nurse has the hardware to back that up. 2 titles in Britain, 2 NBA G League titles.
All I ever said, I was like, Nurse is going to shock the world. And he's doing it right now.
A winner everywhere he's been. Can the kid from Iowa make Canada's basketball dreams come true? Stay tuned. Steven D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
Okay, turning back to the cross-country fan frenzy, we really meant it before when we said that the Raptors are Canada's team from coast to coast. Brett Ruskin is in Halifax at their version of Jurassic Park. So Brett, give us a sense, what's the mood like there?
Well, the mood is great, very energetic here, watching kind of all eyes fixed on the screens on the ceiling. So if we take a wide shot here, taking a look at how big this crowd is, you can see people facing in both directions because the screens are all over the ceiling here. 1,000 people in this space underneath a convention center. So even though it is raining in Halifax, just like it was in Toronto as well, people are dry, people are excited, people are enjoying the game here at Jurassic Park, Halifax.
All right, Brett, thank you very much. We'll get back to you a little bit later. Watching all that playoff action may feel stressful, but as Christine Birak explains, it might actually be good for your health.
Jurassic Park, we're doing it!
Sports fandom is tribal.
Let's go Raptors!
From the chants and shared colors.
It's amazing, like everybody's cheering up, everybody's so nice.
To the symbols, and who can forget the idols.
We're in number 7. This is Kyle Lowry.
It doesn't matter where in the world you are, the team you cheer on becomes part of your identity, connecting you to a larger clan or community with shared values and experiences.
It's no different, like in terms of how our brain feels, as when a biological need is satisfied.
Psychologists say the sense of belonging fandom offers is vital.
One of the reasons that humans are the most successful species on the planet is because we have great social instincts, right? That's what allowed us, with our no claws and no sharp teeth, that's what allowed us to live in big groups, and that's what allowed us to kind of save and protect ourselves.
While studies have shown that blood pressure goes up during the game and testosterone drops after a big loss, researchers say win, lose, or draw, being a die-hard fan or bandwagon jumper is linked to higher levels of social well-being and general happiness, and lower levels of loneliness and alienation.
I don't know, it felt comfortable. It just feels at home.
Most fans are also drawn to a larger thrill that no one in the world knows what's going to happen.
Psychologists even have a name for it. They call it the pleasure of uncertainty. Like, we have a thrill when things are uncertain, but we also have like an instinct to try to control it.
Which is why fans often have rituals. Without control, we do certain things to try and ease our anxiety.
I went to 15 games this year, and wearing this jersey, undefeated wearing this jersey.
In the long run, experts say it's not really the score that matters. It's that we're all in it together. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
And here's another look at the crowd in Jurassic Park. We are live. Stay with us.
One of the things I really enjoy about walking into these mall outlets is, all of the light, all of the flashy advertisement, these signs and everything. But when I walk through these stores, it's not very often that I just go in, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to look for a shirt. It's not as fun as it used to be when you started to look at the psychology of consumerism. My name is Ursula Johnson, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist based out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. With this work for the Winnipeg Art Gallery, I really wanted to focus on the idea of the conversations that have happened already, initiated by Indigenous female performance artists. Shelley Nero, Rebecca Belmore, Laurie Blondeau, and Cheryl Larondel, for instance. And I thought, well, what if we play with that idea of fashion photography with regards to consuming the female body? There has always been this, this notion of the exoticized Indigenous female body. When Disney came out with Pocahontas, she was like this beautiful, glossy, young Indigenous woman that's like, she can sing, she's beautiful, she speaks with a tree. So it was like this notion of stereotype perpetuation. But if you looked at like the actual structure of her body, you know, in that animation, it was very, you know, kind of like this Barbie doll like body, where it was like, nobody really looks like that. I commissioned a local photographer in Halifax by the name of Steve Farmer, and I went shopping. And they would ask me, can I help you with something? I'd say, actually you can. I'm wondering if you have anything Indian in your store. Something appropriated from like Native American culture, maybe something with beads, feathers, and fringes. And then I held a little fashion shoot. And then I took text that I had requested from those 4 Indigenous female performance artists. I asked them to write a response to kind of the topic of, you know, the commodified Indigenous female body. And so some of the quotes that they gave me were maybe memories they had from conversations with people, or some of them were their own words of trying to break down those notions of those stereotypes. So I was looking at the notion of that space between the text of these words of these Indigenous female artists and then my body. And so that was where the title Between My Body and Their Words came for this commission for the Winnipeg Art Gallery. Looking at those ideas of consuming this female body, especially at this time when we're experiencing like a national crisis with regards to Indigenous women who are missing and murdered all across this country, and other countries are all over the world as well. There's not any real like super engaging critical conversations. Nobody thinks about that because it's the Indigenous body who has been kind of like pushed aside and brushed under the rug as, you know, the role of the, you know, well, you're supposed to be here and, you know, not be seen or not be heard type of thing, unless we want to sexualize your body. Then we'll put you at the forefront.
Welcome back. Donald Trump has repeatedly denied accepting Russia's help to win the 2016 election. But some of his most recent comments are causing both his enemies and his allies to question whether this time he's gone too far. Here's Lindsay Duncombe.
I don't think in my whole life I've ever called the FBI.
Just when you might think Donald Trump may have lost the ability to say something shocking, this.
If somebody called from a country, Norway, we have information on your opponent. Oh, I think I'd want to hear it.
An Oval Office admission that the president is open, it seems, to election interference, and if approached, wouldn't necessarily call the FBI.
I think maybe you do both. I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
Accepting help from a foreign government to influence an election is against U.S. campaign finance law. FBI Director Christopher Wray was recently asked what a campaign should do if approached by a foreign agent.
That's something that the FBI would want to know about.
But rather than walk back his comments, the president did the opposite, saying on Twitter, "I meet and talk to foreign governments every day," mentioning the Queen and asking, should I immediately call the FBI about these calls and meetings? How ridiculous. Trump's equating tea with the Queen to election interference went too far for some Republicans.
I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake of law. I don't want to send a signal to encourage this.
That would be simply unthinkable for a candidate for president to accept that involvement, to encourage it, to participate with it in any way, shape, or form.
From Democrats, outrage.
And what the president said last night shows clearly, once again, over and over again, that he does not know the difference between right and wrong. And that's probably the nicest thing I can say about him.
But are Trump's comments enough to change House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's calculation on starting an impeachment process against the president?
What we want to do is have a methodical approach to the path that we are on, and this will be included in that.
Hinting, perhaps, the president's words may come back to haunt him. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
We are back after the break from Jurassic Park with some very superstitious fans.
Young and old have come.
dressed in white, which is their way. Fans flock to this funeral of sorts to say goodbye to a longtime friend. The Winnipeg Jets are moving to Phoenix. After years of losing money, the team was finally sold.
I'm devastated. It's been a big part of our family life for the last 24 years.
It's hard to believe that this is really the last time that we'll be seeing this team.
George and Sally Holubitsky, loyal fans. They bought a pair of season tickets every year.
We look forward to every game.
It's all over. It's an era that's over.
This was the beginning of an era. June 1972, Portage in Maine, a renowned intersection and historic occasion. Superstar Bobby Hull signs on with the fledgling Winnipeg Jets. Hull gets $1 million, and Winnipeg finally gets pro hockey.
Long moving in, shooting, he scored!
The Jets are part of a new league, the World Hockey Association. The WHA gives hockey to cities that crave the game. Vancouver, Edmonton, Hartford, Quebec City, Cleveland.
I was quite excited about it. I thought it would put Winnipeg on the map.
Fans were not disappointed. The early Jets were good, winning several WHA championships. The city grew fond of its new hockey heroes, but the glory days were fleeting. Trouble was lurking by the time the WHA merged with the NHL in 1979. The Jets have been a so-so hockey club, but a business failure. Winnipeg is a small city in a big market game. This arena, it's publicly owned, but it's small and old by league standards. 10 years ago, the team owners said they needed a new arena. Last year, they said time had run out.
Save our Jets! Save our Jets!
Winnipeggers rallied when their team went on the selling block. Hockey fans met again at Portage in Maine, in the largest public gathering since the World Wars.
To see a town come together with one common purpose and work that hard, I thought it was the damnedest thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was just incredible. I mean, that Save the Jets campaign was magnificent. Tragically magnificent, but
Hal Sigurdsson, Winnipeg sports writer. For 20 years, he's covered the Jets. But the marriage is over. Sigurdsson is retiring. The team is leaving.
But the bottom line is there simply wasn't enough money generated in the Winnipeg economy to make it work. Unfortunately, the NHL has become a league that has champagne prices, and Winnipeg is a town with a beer budget.
But fans were not willing to accept the new reality. In just a few days last May, Manitobans donated $5 million in a bid to save the franchise. Government leaders, already covering team losses in the tens of millions, offered a new arena. Pride was at stake.
I think it transcends just hockey and sport. And the Jets came to symbolize the fact that this is still a major league town.
I've come every year, and so it's been kind of difficult now to sort of say goodbye to them.
Goodbye to a team with a rich legacy. Hockey's first $1 million player. Hockey's first European imports. Hockey's characters, like former general manager John Ferguson.
I'm a hockey man. I got the Jets logo tattooed on my ass.
Former coach Tom McVie.
These guys brought me along, and now I'm on a championship team. And it's better than sex, really.
Many of these fans have specific rituals, superstitions, some might say, that they believe will help their team. That is our moment.
It's Kawhi's head on a goat because he's the greatest of all time, and we just thought it'd be a good idea to put his head on a goat.
I don't get it. What?
Goat, like greatest of all time, like G stands for, it's like an acronym, yeah.
I rubbed my tattoo. Me and my wife got matching tattoos 3 years ago, and I rubbed mine for luck before each game. And just keep rubbing it, saying like, we got this one, boys, let's win.
I do it for playoffs. This is my second set, and I just think maybe it'll bring good luck too.
I'm wearing my favorite player's jersey, Kawhi Leonard, you know, the king of the north. So every time I've worn this jersey, we won. So it's a lucky jersey, basically.
Okay, here's something spooky, superstitious, if you will. Stanley Cup, Maple Leafs 67, won it in 6 games. The Blue Jays won the World Series in 6 games. It has to be the Raptors in 6.
Yeah, what do we call Toronto? The 6. It has to as well. I agree.
Well, I will say I'm definitely superstitious. In fact, I've been growing out my playoff beard. 2021 is when it'll be ready. That's the national.
Good luck with that.
June 13th. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.